He never touched a drop of oil in his life, never drilled a well, never worked a rig, and yet by the time he was 50, 1 out of every 4 barrels of oil on Earth answered to him. The strangest part isn't that he built the largest monopoly in American history, it's that when the United States government spent 13 years trying to tear it apart, he ended up richer than before they started. This is the story of John D. Rockefeller, the most hated man in America, and the secret that made him its first billionaire. Richford, New York, 1839. His mother, Eliza, was a devout Baptist who believed a debt unpaid was a sin uncommitted. His father, William, was something else, a con man who vanished for months selling fake cancer cures out of a wagon, and who loaned his own son money at full interest just to, in his words, make him sharp. He didn't rebel against it. He absorbed it. By 11, he was keeping a handwritten ledger of every cent that passed through his hands. He called it Ledger A, and he'd keep some version of it for the rest of his life. At 16, he talked his way into an unpaid trial as a bookkeeper's assistant in Cleveland. By 20, he was a partner in his own trading firm, known on the docks for one thing: he never lost track of a penny. Then, in 1859, an oil well struck 60 miles away, and the world suddenly needed a new kind of light. Cleveland's oil boom was chaos, speculators with no discipline. Rockefeller borrowed aggressively to build a refinery, over his cautious partner's objections. By 1865, the two men couldn't agree on the future, so they settled it with an auction. Highest bidder keeps the company. The bidding climbed past $50,000. His partner, certain no 25-year-old had the nerve to go further, nearly smiled. $72,500, Rockefeller said. Silence. Then, a handshake. He called it the most important day of his life. He didn't celebrate. He looked at the river where every refinery in town dumped its leftover gasoline and tar as waste. Rockefeller didn't see waste. He saw money bleeding out of a ledger. He turned it into wax, into lubricants, into profit nobody else was collecting. By 30, he ran the largest refinery on Earth. In 1870, he founded Standard Oil. Then came the absorption. He struck a secret deal with the railroads, guaranteed shipments in exchange for steep rebates, and a drawback, a hidden cut of every rival's shipping payment, routed straight into his own accounts. His competitors were funding him without knowing it. You can sell to me now at a fair price, or keep competing against a railroad that's already decided you lose. In under 3 months, 22 of Cleveland's 26 refineries were gone. When the scheme leaked, the public was furious. Effigies burned. The deal legally revoked within the year. Too late. He already owned the city. He kept going, buying the barrel makers, the warehouses, the chemical plants, until rivals couldn't refine oil even if they wanted to. By 1879, Standard Oil controlled 90% of American refining. 90% of an industry was a legal problem. State law didn't allow a company to own another across state lines. So, in 1882, Rockefeller's lawyers invented something new: the trust. 40 companies, pooled under 9 trustees, invisible to any single regulator. A secret no one could quite prove. But one woman remembered what that secret cost. Ida Tarbell's father had been an independent oilman, ruined by Standard Oil's rebates. For 2 years, she investigated and, along the way, uncovered something else entirely. Rockefeller's father was a wanted man, living under a false name, secretly married to a second wife. The headline broke him socially in a way no lawsuit ever had. Tarbell's expose handed President Theodore Roosevelt the ammunition for an antitrust case that ended in 1911 with the Supreme Court ordering Standard Oil broken into 34 companies. The public celebrated. They thought the empire was dead. Here's what nobody expected. Breaking up the company didn't cost Rockefeller his ownership. It just handed him proportional stock in all 34 pieces, now free of the legal baggage that had weighed the trust down for decades. Companies that would become Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron were suddenly valued individually, and Wall Street valued them enormously. By 1916, as America shifted to the age of the automobile, newspapers confirmed it. John D. Rockefeller's fortune had crossed $1 billion, the first in world history. He had outlasted his father's disgrace, his rivals, and the U.S. government's best legal effort to stop him. In his final years, the man once burned an effigy, handed out dimes to children, and funneled his fortune into medical research and the Rockefeller Foundation, the last entries in a ledger he'd kept since he was 11 years old. He died on May 23, 1937, at 97, leaving a fortune worth, in today's terms, over $300 billion. The world didn't punish John D. Rockefeller for owning everything. It made him the blueprint for how to do it again.